What's up, everybody, and welcome to my review. My name is Rue, and today I'm going to rank my city, Jacksonville, Florida. Let's take a look at a little history pertaining to Jax, aka Freakville. Today's tale, we're going to take a little look into the past. That's around 1990 to 2000 is going to be the first era that I want to discuss here a little bit. Back in the day, Orange Park itself was a little bit undeveloped. Now, Orange Park is connected to Jacksonville, Florida, which is kind of on the outskirts, and an area that I spent a lot of my childhood and teen life that'll kind of come next here when I went to that school over there. But the area back then, around the early 1990s, was still a bit underdeveloped. At least the Orange Park North side of things, around where the Orange Park Mall used to be, which is a great place that I used to go walking around with my grandmother. We were one of those. We used to go walking around in the mall. That was okay. Now, also back in the day, it used to be that I-95 and JTB, I think, were the main roads of transport before we had all of these different, 295 was there, which is a highway that circles the city, which is cool because I'm not sure how many other cities have this, which is pretty neat. So, Interstate 295 surrounds the city of Jacksonville and allows you transit completely all around the city at will. So it forms a giant circle around it. But also, aside from that, your only other options back then were I-95 and JTB to go to the beaches and such. Back then, I believe the Buckman Bridge was still like a one-sided bridge. We also had this bridge that connected the west side of Jacksonville to Mandarin. And then I believe during that time too, when I was a kid, around the early 90s maybe too, that the Buckman Bridge became, or they tore down the old one or something like that, pretty much just built a new one, or double-sided it, however that goes. So, back in the day, we used to shop at Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It was a great store. It still is a great store, and some of my fondest memories were going to Publix for some reason. It was weird, because when I'd go there as a kid, I'd always want like things like Freezer Pops and Capri Suns and different kinds of snacks that we had as kindergartners, so I enjoyed every moment of it. One of my fonder memories was the area that I grew up in Jacksonville was pretty much sequestered to the west side of Jacksonville. Now, I've always been on the line of Orange Park and Jacksonville itself, so in this little particular area, we had very, very nearby Argyle Forest. That area was under development. Again, around 1989 through the 90s and such, and the area of Chimney Lakes, where there was an elementary school, which I was the first kindergarten class at that school. One of the first, when the school was built and finally had opened over in that area when development was still fairly new. So I used to live in that area, and that's where I went to school. So that was cool. Now, a year prior to that, we had the snow of 1989, if some of you remember this, around December 1989, so at the end of the year, right there between 89 and 90, it actually snowed in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was it was a white winter. It was pretty rad, actually. It was pretty cool. We actually had, like, icicles from my house. I recall waking up, and I believe that was the year I got my Game Boy, I think. Fucking old school Game Boy, which is, yes, totally rad. I had Super Mario Land and Tetris, and eventually Link's Awakening, which became my favorite game of all time on the Game Boy. But that also happened during the 90s, but not so much related to Jacksonville. Something that is related to Jacksonville, actually, is there were random arcades, now speaking of video games, at places like Mervyn's department stores or other different little places like that. Now, I'm saying Mervyn's because that's the one I particularly remember. Other than that, there were some other, I can't remember the names of them, but this was like the dawn of department stores that were kind of all over the place, and especially on the west side of Jacksonville, where they started to kind of like just pop up everywhere. I remember there also being like arcades, like a tabletop Super Mario Bros. Or the Versus cabinet, as I know now what it's actually called, but that was a thing in a department store that I remember, and it was great. Shopping centers and neighborhoods, like this whole area. The west side of Jacksonville was kind of becoming more and more urbanized, like not urbanized, but like suburbanized, yeah. And this was still prior a little bit to like the Oak Leaf area and things that you see nowadays, which kind of like blends into Clay County, I think, a little bit the further you go one direction, but either way, it's still Jacksonville. So, speaking of also Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars were founded in 1993. So during this period of time when I was a kid growing up in the city, we finally got our own football team, and it was kind of a neat thing. Now, as a kid, I didn't give a shit. As a teen, I didn't give a shit. And as an adult, I don't give a shit. So that will follow up later. But anyway, it's a proud city moment. We got our own team finally. And then the year Y2K, the year 2000 happened.
It's 2 a.m., January 1st, year 2000. Power's out. It's pitch black. You need light. If you planned ahead, you'll have one of these.
That brings us over to the Jacksonville more recent past. When I was a teen, through the year 2000 to 2010-ish, so that was kind of like the years when I was a little bit more, growing into myself and such. Now, I did briefly touch on the mall in the last segment when I was going, hanging out with my grandma and walking around the mall, doing our walks and shit. Now I'm going back to the mall and smoking weed and drinking, probably. I don't know, doing all kinds of dumb shit. Walking home from school, going to the mall. Now, speaking of school, I used to go, I went to Bishop Kenny, and I also went to Orange Park High School. So in the middle of my Bishop Kenny year, I was a bad student, so I had to go back to public school. So at that time, I was living basically in Orange Park, again, which is a suburb outside of Jacksonville, but I still consider it, to be Jacksonville history when it comes to it. Which brings me to Blanding Boulevard as a street that I would like to rank here in Jacksonville. Now, Blanding Boulevard is like the Westside's main street, so if you know anything about Jacksonville history, Blanding Boulevard pretty much spans all the way from way down in Jacksonville, near the core, going towards downtown, even almost all the way down when it becomes Highway 21 or some shit, like past Orange Park and continuing on. So Blanding Boulevard is like our main street, essentially. Our regular malls and shops. And again, there's more stores, like the ever-changing plaza, as I like to call it. Like Best Buy popped up, George's Music popped up. You had your different. I believe Publix always stayed around, so there was always a good Publix store in the Argyle area, and that portion of it, that area was when that area was that was like the forefront of Argyle being developed, and then the further back you go into that area, that's when you get your Oakleaf and those things were now being developed in this time. So behind Argyle Forest, around this time I also became a high school grad degenerate. So I was wrapping up high school this time, learning about life, figuring out all the shit that I was gonna do wrong in the later years. And then I got older. 2010 through 2020. The Jacksonville music scene. We still have venues like Jackrabbits, which is awesome. We had, I believe this might have been around the end of the Edge 2000, and until it became the Plush and some other names and things like that. We used to have Zombie Walk back in the day, at least in this present era of, again, the 10s to the 20s. So there's a lot of things going on. The city itself was still kind of like bolstering up. You have a lot of artists. We had Art Walk happening and a lot more prevalent. I believe this was happening too as well in the earlier 2000s. But at least in this period of time, it's becoming more popular, and you start to see more people going downtown and hanging out. We finished the Bridge of Locks. I don't even really know what the hell this actually called, but me and my friend Raven just went over there, and it was fucking awesome. It was cool to take a look at. So we walked across the bridge, and that was dope. Jacksonville has also always kind of been like a software city, right? So we're always pretty good in the IT game, and nothing really in that fact has changed, at least in the present. We're still pretty much a good software city. I don't think we'll ever be anywhere near like Silicon Valley or anything like that, but we do have a lot of customer service jobs, and there's a lot of fucking call center shit that you can do here. So in the Jacksonville present scene, if you're looking for work, that's the kind of things that are pretty much to be offered, like, all the time. Unless you want to work like retail and be the classic Florida man, That's totally cool too. Just get a fucking job at a little Jiffy shop. Actually, that should be back in the past portion. But yeah, a little Jiffy. But yeah, you know, you can do whatever you want, Florida man. You can do whatever the fuck you want. That's totally cool. Another good thing about Jacksonville present time period is the bar scene. The bar scene down here. Now in my more present, I kind of stopped going to places. I like to frequent like one place. And again, Orange Park as a suburb outside of Jacksonville is a great place to go find a nice cold beverage, should you be out there looking for something like that. And there's a lot of established places out there that have been there since the 90s that started off when I was a kid, obviously way too young to fucking drink, but I'll shout out my Solids and Stripes. I fucking love that place, and they've been around for almost as long as I think that I had been working at Crazy Dave's, which had also been around since 1991. And that's a good time to talk about the unfortunate present. Maybe I'll move that to the future part, but yeah, Crazy Dave's was around, which is a Jacksonville icon. Another little thing though about Jacksonville present is all the traffic and the bridge shit that we have to deal with here. There is a lot of that. Now I believe that there used to be like those cameras and crap that people like hung up on the sides. You know, the what do you call it? The Department of Transit or whatever. The DOT. That's it. They would put up those traffic cams, and man, those cause more accidents than they fucking solve. So I'm kind of glad those are gone. If they're not all gone, most of them are gone. At least the ones on the west side of town are gone. Well, something else too that I wanted to touch on was the Planet Fest from back in the day and the Rockville festivals. Now, we used to host here in Jacksonville some really awesome fucking concerts, and unfortunately those days are now gone. The Rockville has moved over to Daytona, to the Daytona Speedway, which is fine. It's a great venue. I think it's actually much better than the one that we had here, because the one in Jacksonville was just like sprawled out and all over the place. That will bring us into the Jacksonville future, 2020 through 2030.
Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you.
Housing developments abound. There's nothing but housing developments being built, at least coming up in the future, in the near present. There's all those KB homes popping up all over the fucking place. Jacksonville Jaguars still suck, so I don't see that changing anytime soon. I mean, I like my home team, but man, do I know a losing team when I see it, and it's unfortunate, but it does happen. So sorry to all you footballers out there. It's just not my bag of tea. I don't really give a shit. You know what else? You know what we do have for shit? We have good shitters here in Jacksonville. You ever seen a fucking rest stop over there? Check out this video right here if you want to see my review of the best shitters around Jacksonville heading towards Live Oak. So that's a nice little video right there. Check it out. Give me a like. But to wrap it up in the Jacksonville review, I'd like to give Jacksonville, as a city itself, an overall score of 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a wonderful place to live. I think I've made some of my best friends here. I've lived here all my life, so I mean, what else am I going to do with my time? But I will leave the end note to Ash from Evil Dead to let you know what I think of Jacksonville. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Jacksonville, Florida. It's everything I ever dreamed of.